How much cursed energy does Yuji actually have? Let's talk about it, but spoilers beware. So this question comes to us today from TWE, and thank you so much for the support, man. And y'all can pause to read the whole thing, but essentially it's asking how much cursed energy does Yuji have? And this is a great question because the short answer is we don't know. There's really no telling, but we can go over what we do know. Okay, so first things first, before Yuji ate Sukuna's finger, he couldn't have had too much cursed energy because he had never seen a cursed spirit before this night. And just before anybody says, yes, he obviously saw the cursed spirit he was fighting before he ate the finger, but like Megami points out, in situations of like where death is near and it's very dire, even normal humans can see cursed spirits. So that's why Yuji could in that instance. But then he eats the finger, gets some cursed energy from that, and then can see cursed spirits like normal, right? So he didn't have much before this moment. And here's where things get incredibly murky because this isn't something that was ever explicitly addressed in the series. Again, we know that first, technically second finger, since he was born with one inside of him, but that one was sealed, so we're just going to ignore that for the purposes of this. But ever since he eats that first finger, he unlocks an amount of cursed energy more than he was born with, right? He can now see cursed spirits, he can now train in jujutsu sorcery, all that jazz. Well, you would think that maybe with each subsequent finger he then ate, he would get a boost, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Obviously, Sukuna got stronger with each finger that Yuji ate, but it never seemed to be that Yuji was getting a power-up alongside that. And in addition to that, we know that when Sukuna left his body, Yuji didn't power down, right? He retained all of his sorcerer abilities. He could still see curses. So for whatever reason, it just seems to be that Sukuna's finger gives him that initial boost or whatever it is, and really it's impossible to tell how much that was. And then the other curveball we got to take under consideration here is the fact that Yuji ate the Curse Womb death paintings, and I think it's fair to say that that probably increased his cursed energy reserves. It at the very least gave him blood manipulation, so I don't think that's a far stretch to make. Then finally, what makes this even more difficult to gauge is the fact that Yuji's cursed energy reserves were never like plot relevant. There was never a time where he was just outmatched in that regard and, had to pass out or give up or anything like that. And part of that's because he's the Baron of Black Flash, right? He's out there black flashing, restoring his own reserve. So it's hard to say how much he actually has. He's crazy efficient because he's his own rechargeable battery, right? So I think with all of that under consideration and the fact that there were never any statements about him like being a prodigy in that regard or anything, then he's most likely akin to like a high grade 1 sorcerer. Means I think we're looking at something like this in terms of the hierarchy here. Yuji's going to have more than your average sorcerer, sure, but he's not going to have as much as the heaviest hitters here. We know that Gojo had a lot, but he's insanely efficient because of his eyes. Akotsu technically has more than Gojo, and Sukuna has twice as much as Akotsu.